Hi everyone, my name's Robin Love. I live on the west coast of Newfoundland. And for almost 20 years, I have been a student of Zen Buddhism. And in the last several years, I've been sharing what I've learned about this practice with people here in Corner Brook. I've been doing it at the Namaste Yoga Studio and at the Corner Brook Public Library. Now that we are in this COVID-19 pandemic, I'm no longer able to meet at the library and offer any instruction or sit with people as a group. So they encouraged me to create a short recording that would offer the instructions so that you can try this at home. And I also want to mention that I have an ongoing sitting group online via Zoom on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. And you can just join and we sit together just for about 15 minutes. And there's time after if you want to chat or not. It's very come as you are, leave when you want, and just a nice way to have some other people to sit with, even though we sit in silence. But how do you even get started? That's the question. So before I get into that, I just want to say that for as many people as there are who are interested in meditation, there are probably that many styles and types of meditation. And Zen has a very particular style. And if you find after you try it for a while that just not your thing, that's totally fine. There are so many other ways. The more important thing is that you actually find some way. My teacher's teacher often would say an unexamined mind is a very dangerous thing. So we want to take some time out of our day, not just for stress release, but that's obviously a very good thing right now, but also just to examine what is going on in our mind and how is that, how are our thoughts influencing our actions in the world? So Zen has a particular take on this. And there's some things to think about before we even get started. And the very first thing is once you've decided, okay, I think I want to try this meditation thing, is to have a space where you can do it, where you know you won't be interrupted. And so it should be a quiet place. So probably you're not going to do it in the middle of your kitchen while supper's being cooked, or in a hallway where people are walking back and forth. So you find a quiet place, and the sort of traditional instruction is that it should be not too dark and not too light and not too hot and not too cold. So you're going to find some place where you can control the light and the temperature so you can be comfortable. That's the main thing. You don't want to be falling asleep, and you don't want to be distracted. So then once you've found your place, then you can decide what posture are you going to take. So traditionally Zen is done seated, and we do it seated on the floor, and I have this cushion behind me, and we call it a zafu. You've probably seen these round cushions, but you don't need to have this at all. You can have any cushion, and you can sit on the ground, but I'm going to talk about sitting in a chair just because for most of us, this is a more comfortable position. So I just have one of my kitchen chairs, and I'm sitting so that my feet are touching the ground. And that is very important. So if you have shorter legs and your feet tend to hover off the ground, you're going to put a pillow or a blanket under them so that you feel that connection, because we want to feel a solid foundation. Feel your bottom in the chair. But another thing is you don't want to be, if you're sitting in a chair, most chairs are designed so that you kind of are leaning back a bit, but we want to sit upright. We want our spine to be upright so that it's in its most natural position. So I actually, if I'm using my chair to sit, I actually take my cushion and tuck it right behind my low back, and so that I sit a little forward in my chair. And it helps me sit the most upright. my back has a little bit of support, but I'm not tempted to just kind of like hang out here because again, I don't want to fall asleep and I don't want to be in pain. So when we feel solid through our base, our feet and our bottom, and we sit nice and tall, then we can sit, for most of us, at least for a little while without pain. Once we're here, sitting upright, they also say maybe your nose is over your navel. So you want to be sitting as straight as you can, mainly because you want to be free to breathe without any hindrance. Then we put our hands in what is called a mudra. Mudra is a Sanskrit word that means seal, meaning like in a way we're sealing our intention to sit down and do this meditation. So in Zen, there are many mudras. Mudras is often, not always, but often is a hand position. Maybe you've seen people doing something like this. You know, sometimes people, when they're kind of parodying meditation, they are like putting their hand in some way. Well, they might be kind of making a joke of it, but what they are doing is putting their hand in a mudra. There's many, many mudra. Zen uses a very particular one. You take your right hand and you set it in your lap, and then you take your left hand with the palm up, and you put it with the palm up right on top of the right hand, kind of sort of as if the knuckles are right over on top of each other, and then you bring the thumbs together to form an oval, and the thumbs press together only as if you were holding a piece of paper between. So you're not crunching down and you're not sort of hanging out there. So there's just like a very gentle tension there. So for me, when I get my space together and I get my seat ready and I find my comfortable posture, and then I put my hands in the mudra, for me, that's the moment where I'm saying, okay, I'm committed, I'm doing this thing. And so even if the phone rings or I hear a little ting on my phone, a notification, I'm not gonna interrupt. Now I'm committed. So in fact, I recommend putting your phone away where you don't hear it and turning off all that stuff. That's part of creating your quiet environment. So, okay, now I'm committed. I'm sitting upright. But the mudra has this other function too, which I find quite helpful, which is it often reminds me of when my mind has drifted away. So sometimes I can get quite a kind of bearing down. My thoughts can be kind of intense. So sometimes I notice I am pressing my thumbs together with a little too much effort. And it's like, whoa, 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 ease up. So then I can soften. And then some other times, maybe I'm tired and by sitting still, my whole body gets actually quite too relaxed and my mudra falls open or it just gets kind of droopy. So when I notice that, it's like, oh, so it's really a wonderful tool for us to notice what's going on in our mind. Okay, so I'm sitting in my chair, my feet are on the floor, I'm sitting upright, shoulders are relaxed. If you need a little extra pillow under your hands so that you don't want your shoulders up here with the mudra, you want it to be a natural sit place. Okay, then what? Well, for many meditation traditions, you will close your eyes. But in Zen, we don't close our eyes. We just let them look downward, a little ahead of us, so that our neck can stay in an upright position. And the reasoning for this is that in Zen meditation, we're never pushing anything away, including the information coming in through our senses. So our eyes, they're built to take in information. And so by closing them in a way, we are denying that sense. And I say that knowing that for many meditation traditions, closing the eyes is an important part. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. They're just different intentions. So within Zen, the idea is that we're not denying our sense of sight, but neither are we engaging it. So as I look down, I have a wooden floor and the wood has many patterns and knots. And if I was to sit here and look down, and get really engaged in the patterns and start to see faces and other things, animals, flowers, who knows what. Well, that is actually engaging my eyes. But I've sort of made my commitment that I'm not going to do that for the next however many minutes. So rather than doing that, I just let whatever's there arise to meet my eyes without needing to kind of attach or go into it and then get carried away with whatever other thoughts or stories follow. And same with my ears. Maybe I hear a bird or a car or something. Instead of being like, oh, that's a blue jay, or oh, who's driving by? I think it's my neighbor. Are they home from work? No, I'm going to just let that sound come on in and come on out. And I'm also not getting uptight if there is sound, because sometimes, you think, hey, I'm meditating over here, quiet down. That's also, another way of just getting engaged with the sound. So we just notice what comes up and then see if you can let that go. So same thing. If you notice that you are starting to engage with whatever is around you visually, then you notice that and just come back. In fact, I'm going to share with you a little drawing which explains this quite beautifully. I think it's really lovely. Let's see if I can do it. Let's see. And here. Perfect. Great. Let me move this little, can we move this little guy? Anyway, okay. So this picture is, I really want to move that thing. Okay. This picture is a depiction, a visual depiction of meditation. So in this picture, you're this little person here. And then the line that goes across the page, let's call that line the present moment. So most of us have heard or somehow heard that in meditation, particularly in Zen meditation, there's a lot of like, be here now, stay in the present moment, right? And there's truth to that, because what else do we have? The past no longer exists. The future hasn't happened yet. So what else do we have? We have the present moment. So we want to pay attention to the present moment. And in fact, that's what's happening when we get engaged with, say, I start to see faces in my floor, rather than just letting whatever's there be there. Once I start making up that little story about the wood floor pattern, I'm no longer in my present moment. I've gone somewhere else. And that's what happens in meditation. So we're like sitting, in our posture, and we're going along, la, 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 in the present moment. And then all of a sudden, we get tired. Suddenly, for whatever reason, our mind starts to get kind of heavy, and we get a bit sleepy, and maybe even our head starts to bob a little. We might even actually fall asleep. Well, what happens is at some point, you will notice that you have fallen asleep or you've gotten really drowsy and heavy, and you'll say, oh, but remember, I made this commitment to, you've sealed your commitment to be there. So you come back to the present moment. And the beauty part is the present moment is always right there for you. So, okay, you got sleepy. Now you come back to the present moment, and you going along, and you're in that moment. And then all of a sudden, yeah, maybe your stomach rumbles, or you just start thinking, what am I gonna have for dinner? I think I might want to, or do I have to go to the store? If I do that, what will I need? Now you're in some sort of activity mode. Maybe you're planning, or often what happens is people use this time to fix all their problems. They're going to think it through. And then, but in fact, that's not, at least within Zen, that is not the purpose of meditation, is not to fix all your problems. So at a certain point you might notice like, oh, I have drifted away. I have gone into planning mode or fixing mode, or just kind of ruminating. Maybe there's something going on in your life and you're just telling the story over and over and over. Okay, it happens. You notice it, you come back to the present moment and keep going. And you know, this pattern could happen in many different ways, and it could happen over and over and over and over again within one time of sitting. And guess what? This whole page, this whole thing is the meditation. And I think for a lot of people who take up the practice, and I want to say people who've been doing it for a long time, can think that the meditation is only happening when you're on this line of the present moment. But please let me be the one to share with you that in fact, the meditation is all of it, particularly that moment when you notice you've drifted away. But it's all of it, because I think for a lot of people, we feel like, how do I know I'm doing it right? It's all happening in my mind. It's not like, you know, a fitness routine where you can tell you're doing it right because you're getting muscles or losing weight or whatever your goal was. It's so much harder to know in meditation, am I doing it right? Well, how about the premise of it includes everything? So then where's the mistake? I'll just put that out there. So returning to our seat, we come back. And the beginning instruction that I received when I came first to the Zen Center was to count my breaths as a way of keeping my mind, developing some concentration. Because truthfully, it is hard to keep your mind on the present moment straight out of the gate. I mean, most of us arrive, our minds are busy, especially right now, where many of us have been really quite under a lot of stress and just feeling the whole world is in turmoil. And even though here in Newfoundland we're in pretty good shape, all of that is also coming through to us. And so our minds are not particularly settled right now. And if you were to ask me, is the goal to not have any thoughts, I will say unequivocally the answer to that is no. The goal of meditation is not to have no thoughts. The goal of meditation is, there are many goals, but you're going to notice your thoughts. So as you sit, the idea of counting the breath is simply yet another tool to help you notice these thoughts. Just like the mudra is a tool to help you notice if you've gotten a bit heavy or if you've gotten a bit distracted. So counting the breath is another way to do it. So the way we do it is, you're not going to breathe in any special way. This is not a special kind of yoga breathing. You just are going to breathe your normal, natural way, but you're going to count the breath. So the best way to do it in the beginning is to count inhale 1, exhale 1. Inhale 2, exhale 2. So with each breath, it's not that the breath is getting longer by one count. It's just your normal breath. Inhale, exhale 1. Inhale, exhale 2. Inhale, exhale 3. Inhale, exhale 4, and keep counting up to 10 breaths. So you'll count 10 normal natural breaths, and then you'll go back to 1. So you just keep, and then you repeat. And what will happen, I won't even say if it happens, it will happen that you will experience perhaps many times that cycle of like getting distracted, and then you notice and you come back. Or getting a little sleepy, and then you come back. And when you come back, you just come back to 1 again with your breath. So maybe you count up to 4, and then you start to think about something, your mind drifts away. Once you notice that you've drifted, first, you're going to acknowledge the thought. So you just pause for a moment. What was the thought? Oh, I was planning dinner. Oh, let it go. Come back to your breath. 1, 2, 3. Now I start to feel a little heavy, drifting. Oh, okay, I was feeling a little sleepy. 1, 2. What am I doing tomorrow? Oh, 1, 2. And that could be the whole 15 minutes, could be like that. And first, that's not incorrect, because the process is a process of noticing, of awareness. So we notice the thought, we let it go, and we come back to the breath. I've had someone say many times that they went beyond 10. Maybe they counted to 20. One person once said they counted to 100 before they noticed. That's just another way. That's fine. You just come back to 1 when you notice. I mean, I was even thinking about how sometimes people will take up this practice, even quite seriously, and then they go away for years. But guess what? It's that present moment is always there for you. So that breath, 1 inhale, 1 exhale, is always there. Even if you go away for 5 years, it's still there. It's ready for you. So the breath practice, the counting the breaths, is really just another tool that helps us maintain our awareness and cultivate a kind of concentration. Sometimes thoughts come up that are persistent, and even though you may say like, okay, all right, acknowledge the thought, let it go, it persists. Often those thoughts have some emotional energy behind them, and that makes them harder to let go of. So as opposed to like, what's on my grocery list, it could maybe some situation, once you're quiet, some situation comes up for you that maybe you had been holding at bay. This is also very normal and natural. And maybe then you do want to look a little closer at that thought and what's behind it. And that's where actually having a teacher can be a useful thing, to bring those questions to them. But meanwhile, for us today, it's really just a matter of finding our quiet place, sitting upright, feeling a connection to the ground, having your spine in a nice, upright, neutral position, shoulders relaxed, hands take the mudra, eyes are not closed, but they're looking down, and we're softening our gaze. And then just with a normal, natural breath, usually through our nose, we will just start to count our breaths, starting at 1 and going up to 10, and then repeating over and over and over, noticing when we drift away one way or another. And that's the practice. Of course, other things can also arise, physical sensations, itches, maybe your hair drifts across your cheek. So those are also things that we can allow to just be without needing to shift. Because what often happens is, if you're sitting, this is what I've noticed, I'm sitting and all of a sudden I have an itch. Well, I think, what's the big deal? I'm just going to scratch it and then I'll come back to my breath. So, okay, now I'm back. Well, suddenly now that itch might be gone, but now I can feel this itch. Well, and now my bottom kind of hurts. Oh, and I can spend the whole time just shift, 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 scratch, adjust, adjust. And really, isn't that how we spend our whole lives? React, adjust, shift. So what the opportunity presenting us is that we can actually maintain a stillness within these very minor discomforts. So a little itch on your skin, truthfully, if you just let it be the sensation that it is on your body, it will go away of its own accord without needing to shift or move. And so the stillness is yet another tool for us in our cultivation of awareness and concentration. in this way, it's actually that we allow things to come up and we allow them to go, just like our thoughts. But physical sensations are also the same. And it creates a pattern of that so that when we're in our rest of our life, as things come up, discomforts, maybe minor or major, it helps us have a little more capacity to let them come up and let them go of their own accord without needing to always be reacting. Once we have a little more space, then we can often react in a way that's more skillful. So that's the practice. And if you would like to join us, it's Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Newfoundland time. I'll put the link below for the Zoom call. And we sit for 15 minutes. And like I said, if you want to stay a little later and just say a quick hello, that's always welcome. So if you have any questions, we do have a Facebook group. It's called the West Coast Meditation Collective on Facebook. You can always post your questions there or share anything, experiences. I often post talks related to meditation and Zen. So please feel free to join us over there.